Excuse me, Mr. Helmer.
What do you want?
Oh, excuse me, the outdoor was shut. I suppose someone forgot to shut it.
My husband is out, Mr. Christie.
I know that.
What do you want here, then?
Over with you.
With me? Go into the nurse. What? No spirit man won't do mother any harm. When he was game, we will have another game. What? You won't speak to me?
Yes, I do.
Today? It's now the 1st of the month year.
No, it is Christmas, Evan. And it will depend on yourself what sort of Christmas you will spend.
What do you mean? Today is absolutely impossible for me.
We don't talk about that until later on. This is something different. I presume you can give me a moment.
Yeah, I can. Although.
Good. I was in Austin restaurant and saw your husband going down the street
Yes?
with a lady.
What then?
Oh, may I make so bold as to ask if it was Mr. Linda?
It was.
Just a rapping tone?
Yes, today.
Oh, she is a great friend of yours, isn't she?
She is. I don't see.
I knew her too, once upon a time.
I'm aware of that.
Oh, are you? So you know all about it? I thought as much. Then I can ask you without beating about the brushes to Mr. Linda to have an appointment in the bank?
Was right. Have you to question me, Miss Crosside? You, my husband, spoiled me. But since you ask, you shall know. Yes, Mrs. Linda is to have an appointment. And it was I who plead her cause, Miss Crosside. Let me tell you that.
I wasn't writing what I saw then.
Sometimes one has a tiny little bit of the influence, I should hope. Because one is a woman, it does not necessarily follow that when anyone is in the subordinate position, Miss Rosal. They should really be careful to avoid opening anyone who
Who has a clue?
exactly. But I assure you,
Very lucky, but to come to the point, the time has come when I should advise to use your influence to prevent that.
Miss Crossite, I have no influence.
Have you? I thought you said yourself just now.
Naturally, I didn't mean you to put the construction on it. What should make you think I have any reason of that? And Miss my husband?
Oh, I have known your husband from our student days. I don't suppose he is any ancestor that other husband.
If you speak son of my husband, I shall turn you out of my house.
You are so bold, Mr. Helmer.
I'm not afraid of you any longer. I saw eyes. The new year comes. I shall in a very short time be free of hope.
Listen to me, Mr. Helmer. I prepare to fight for my small post in the bank, as if I were fighting for my life.
So it seems.
It's not only for sake of money, indeed, that at least with me in the matter, there's another reason. Well, I may as well tell you. I suppose it is I feel like everybody else, that once many years ago I was being there and in Christian.
I think I have heard something of
The matter never comes to the point, but every reason to be close to me after that. So I took the business that you know of. I have to do something, and honestly, I don't think I've been one of worst. But now I must cut myself free from all that. My son is growing up. For their sake, I must try and win back as much respect as I can in the town. This post in the bank was like the first step up for me, and now your husband is going to kick me downstairs again into the mud.
But you must believe me, Miss Cross-eyed. It's not in my power to help you at all.
Then it is because you have any wealth, but I have means to compel you.
You don't mean that you will tell my husband that I owe you money?
Suppose I will tell him.
It would be perfectly infamous of you to think of his learning my spleen, which has been your joy and pride, in such an ugly, clumsy way, that he should learn it from you, and it would put me in a horrible, disagreeable position.
Only disagreeable?
We'll do it then. And it will be the worse for you. My husband will see for himself what a black girl you are, and you certainly will keep your post there.
I asked you if there is only disagreeable things at the home that you're afraid of.
If my husband does get to know of it, of course, he will at once pay you what is due on, and we shall have nothing more to do with you.
Listen to me, Mr. Helmer. Either you have a very bad memory or you know very little of business. I should be remind you of a few details.
What do you mean?
When your husband was very ill, you come to me and borrowed £250 to me.
I don't know anyone else to go to.
I promised to get you the account.
Yes, and you did so.
I promised to get your account on certain conditions. Your mind was taken up with your husband's illness, and you were so anxious to get the money for your journey that you seem to have paid no attention on conditions of our bargain. Therefore, you will not be amiss if I remind you of them. Now I promise to get the money on the security of bonds which I drawn up.
Yes, and which I see.
Good, but below your signature there were a few lines connecting your father's authority for money. Those lines your father should have signed.
Should? He did sing then.
I had left the date line. This to say your father should himself have instead the date on which he signed the paper. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember.
Then I gave you the bond and sing by post your father. Is that does so?
Yes.
And you naturally did so at once because 5 or 6 days afterwards you bought me the bond with your father's signature, and then I gave you the money.
Will have been playing it off regularly.
Fairly so, yes, but to come back to the matter in hand, there must have been a very trying time for you, Mr. Hillman.
It was indeed.
Your father was very ill, is he? Was
He
he?
was very near his end.
And died soon afterward.
Yes.
Tell me, Mr. Hillman, can you by any chance remember what days your father died? On what days of months, I mean?
Papa died on 29 September.
That's correct. I have assessed certainly for myself, and as that is so, there is a discrepancy which I cannot account for.
What discrepancy? I don't know.
The discrepancy shows Mr. Helmer. In fact, your father signed this bond 3 days after his death.
What do you mean? I don't know.
Your father died on 29th of September, but look at here. Your father has dated his signature the 2nd of October. It is discrepancy, isn't it? Can you explain to me? It is a remarkable thing too. The words 2nd October, as well as the year, are not writing your father's handwriting. In the one that I think I know well, of course it can be explained. Your father may have gotten on there his signature, and someone else may have dated it perhaps before they know his death. There is no harm of that. It all depends on the signature of the name. And that's true. I suppose, Miss Helmer, it was your father himself who signed his name here?
No, it was not. It was that word Papa name.
You were this dangerous confection?
It was why you should have your money soon.
Let me ask you a question. Why did you not send this paper to your father?
It was impossible. Papa was so ill. If I had asked him for his signature, I should have had to tell him what the money was to be used for. And when he was so ill himself, I couldn't tell him that my husband's life was in danger. It was impossible.
It would have been better for you if you had given up your trip abroad.
No, that was impossible. That trip was so saved my husband's life. I could give that up.
But it never occurred to you that you were committing a fraud on me.
I couldn't take that into account. I didn't trouble myself about you at all. I couldn't bear you because you put so many hard-dress difficulties in my way, although you know what a dangerous condition my husband was in.
Mrs. Hillman, you do not realize clearly what it is that you've been guilty of, but I can assure you that my one false step, which lost all of my reputation, was nothing more and nothing worse than what you have done.
You? Do you ask me to believe that you will believe enough to run a risk to save your wife's life?
The law cares nothing about motives.
Then it must be very foolish law.
Foolish or not, it is a law by which you will judge if I produce this paper in account.
I don't believe it is the doctor now to be alone to spare her that dying father I think and care. Is a wife not to be alone to save her husband's life? I don't know much about law, but I'm certain that there must be laws permitting such things as that. Have you no knowledge of such laws? You who are a lawyer, you must be a very poor lawyer, Miss Crosseye.
Maybe, but matter of business, such business as you and I had together, do you think I don't understand that? Very well, do as you please. But let me tell you this, if I lose my position a second time, you sure lose yours with me.
Nonsense! Try to offend me like that. I'm not Sally at his sink. And yet, no, it's impossible. I did it for love's sake.
A Doll's House is a 3-act drama written by Henrik Ibsen, who is a Norwegian playwright. It focuses on the lives of a group of Norwegian middle-class people in the 1870s and explores issues including outward appearances, the influence of money, and women's status in a patriarchal culture. It's about the life of a woman named Nora Helmer, mainly focuses on her character development. Throughout her entire life, she has always been a very domesticated person. Furthermore, Nora always acts in her family's best interest. Men have always had the upper hand in her affairs throughout her life. Whether her father or spouse Torvald is to blame. Because she borrows money from people, she finds herself in complicated situations. She borrows money from a dubious man, Krogstad, for her husband, and as a result finds herself in a messy situation. However, it reveals that both her husband and Krogstad attempt to control her in different ways. She eventually becomes frustrated by everything and begins to doubt the basis of all she has ever believed. As a result of her inability to accept the pressure any longer, Nora eventually quits her spouse and becomes independent to discover herself.
In every play, there is always conflict. Without it, the story would simply be dull and boring. In Henrik Ibsen's play, The Doll's House, we can see that Nora faces major conflicts throughout the play. One of the main conflicts in the play is Nora's struggle with Krogstad, which can be found in Act 1, Section 4. In this scene, Krogstad threatens to tell Nora's husband, Torvald, about her past crime. Krogstad threatens Nora that he will reveal her crimes in a letter to Torvald if she did not help him maintain his position at the bank. What happened was Nora illegally obtained a loan from Krogstad by forging her father's signature on the promissory note. During that time period, it is considered a horrible crime. Many people had their lives ruined because of a forgery accusation, and Krogstad was one of those people. Therefore, Krogstad wanted to take advantage of that situation. Krogstad blackmails Nora, threatening to reveal her crime and to bring shame and disgrace on both Nora and her husband if she does not prevent Torvald from firing him. Nora deals with the situation by constantly deceiving Torvald into giving her more money. She even tried to convince Torvald to not fire Krogstad, but unfortunately failed. In conclusion, you can clearly see that the conflict between Nora and Krogstad plays a major role in the development of the story.
The settings for this part, Act 1, Section 4, begin with Mrs. Helmer getting up onto her knees as she had been playing hide and seek with her children behind a table. Mrs. Helmer's physical posture at the start of her contact with Krogstad foreshadows the new relationship he develops with her by the end of it. Mrs. Helmer will appear to be a beggar, with Krogstad hanging over her, and by the end of the action, Krogstad has made it apparent that he will bring her even lower if necessary. A dramatic pattern established earlier in the act continues, such as a character arrives, small talk is exchanged, and then the topic devolves into profound philosophical discussion. The concepts of influence and respect, as well as how they relate to individuals in society, appear in this scene. Is there such a thing as individualism outside of society's bounds? Through Krogstad and Mrs. Helmer's relationship in this scene, the writers invite the audience to consider this subject seriously. Krogstad's purpose for blackmailing Mrs. Helmer is not about money. Rather, he wants to regain society's respect, and he is willing to fight. He sees his job as a bank teller as his one and only chance for repentance. Mrs. Helmer represents individual power and influence, concepts that fade when Krogstad reveals how he has her trapped. Mrs. Helmer and Krogstad are mirror reflections of each other by the end of the scene. They've made blunders for which society will hold them accountable. They both have to fight to stay alive in a society that doesn't care about their particular goals or reasoning.
For the conclusion, in A Doll's House, Act 1, Section 4, Krogstad is seen threatening Nora using Nora's wrongdoings. Krogstad threatens to reveal Nora's secret loan, explaining how she had committed a criminal act. This is how Krogstad plans to blackmail Nora into convincing Torvald not to fire him from his post at the bank. The reason for Krogstad blackmailing Nora is not for the money, but to gain respect from the society again. Krogstad is willing to do anything to fight for his post at the bank, since he thinks that is the only way he can find redemption. That is all for the conclusion.